That was a local choir in a local church, performing as part of a free concert in the middle of the city in which I work. I've finished work for the year, and I'm heading home for Christmas. And I stopped there on the way, just to listen. These choirs are one of my favourite things about this time of the year. It's not nostalgia. I've never been a churchgoer. It's just the sound. The melodies. And the echo. As I'm not religious, this does feel like a form of cultural appropriation. Like I feel a bit dishonest. Like a fair weather fan. So I never stay for the duration of any performance. I always sit at the back and slip out midway through. At whatever point I won't be noticed. Another reason I like these concerts is kind of obvious, like kind of blandly wholesome interpretation of them. They bring people together, which is to a lot of people the whole point of the season. A crowd of people at different ages, backgrounds and stories, all standing in a room singing. Now I'm cynical, as you might expect, about organised religion, but I do overlook that in this context. Like I say, a fair weather fan. My earliest memory of gaming at Christmas is this. I think I was around 10 years old. I received a Game Boy, the big one, with, of course, Tetris. I don't really remember playing it myself, but what I do remember is introducing it to my great-grandmother and her husband. I remember specifically showing him how to play it. And he played it. There's an endearingly unposed photo in the family collection that captured this. Bowl haircut, Lion King hoodie, pointing enthusiastically at the screen with a genuinely joyful smile, while he peered at it curiously through spectacles made of lenses around 5 inches thick. I'm sure he was ultimately nonplussed about it all, which I don't blame him for, but to his credit, he did give it a go. It's one of my few memories of him where he's not sitting in an armchair or standing at the window of his coastal flat, silently looking out to the sea. Both he and my great-grandmother were adults during the Second World War. They had seen the world progress from the horse and cart and the steel bath in the front room to the car, the TV, moon landing, the push and pull of political instability of the 70s and 80s, the rising tide of digital entertainment in the 80s and 90s. What are people with that background supposed to make of something like a Game Boy? Again, to his credit, I think he quite enjoyed playing Tetris on the Game Boy, amused by the novelty of it. The fact that this latest twist in the Road of Progress was a non-violent, puzzle-based experience. I visited them on the coast a few times a year, always with that Game Boy, which I would play quietly while the adults talked. I don't remember my great-grandparents and I ever having an experience like that Christmas again. They're both gone now. I'm heading home for Christmas and to record the Christmas episode of Dialogue Tree. It's going to be an episode about memories of Christmas tied to gaming, like that one. It's also going to be an episode dedicated to the people that have given their time to the show, that have been generous with their time and thoughts and experiences when they absolutely didn't need to be. You know, a show to bring people together. Now, for this episode of Dialogue Tree, I asked previous guests of the show this question. What is your favourite Christmas or holiday gaming memory? I think we've all got at least one. Well, those guests have been kind enough to send me some answers, some little memories from holidays past. So while I'm on the way home, we're going to hear from those guests, the people that have made the show, to reflect on their experiences, how those have influenced them, and to catch up with where they are now. Hi, I'm Andrew. Welcome to Dialogue Tree. This is episode 33. Postcards.
Well, who are you? I told you, George, I'm your guardian angel. A
bumper package of entertainment for Christmas Day on BBC One. At 2 o'clock, the Top of the Pops Christmas Party.
If you have an annual party at your office, then you'll know it can be the greatest pitfall of the social year.
The Wizard of Oz.
Traditionally, it's the night when the office boy shakes hands with the boss and his secretary gets to kiss him.
This is what I wished for.
This is culture. This is the...
A very good morning to you, and may I be the first today to wish you a very...
Merry Christmas!
Hello, I'm Margot from Margot Plays, and my gaming Christmas memory is from 1993. I seem to remember that I more regularly got a game or something gaming related for my birthday in July, so there's really only one Christmas memory I could think of. So previously, or prior to that Christmas, I'd made friends with another girl who already owned a Sega Mega Drive, and whenever we were at her house we would play on it, and she sometimes brought it to mine as well. So naturally, as a kid already with a Game Boy, being able to play on a TV was like a massive novelty to me, so I begged my parents to also have one. And them being the amazing parents they were, Christmas 93 rolled around and I opened a box containing the Mega Drive, and I seem to remember there was a Sonic game and also like a compilation of games that existed in Europe. So mostly from that remember Alien Storm and a helicopter game that was called Super Thunderblade, which is the reason that I always invert axes now for aiming up and down, because I didn't know that there were settings where I could actually change this later on. And there was also a motorbike racing game that I didn't really play, but I mostly found my dad playing when I would come home from school. We owned our own veterinary surgery, so he didn't have traditional working hours. But yeah, so that was quite funny. The Mega Drive contains many happy memories for me, not just at Christmas, but also like that nostalgia hit. Whenever I need it, I go and load up Sonic and just, have a run through that. That's my Christmas memory. So thank you, Andrew, for having me, and happy holidays.
Thanks to Margot for her contribution. Margot was one of my guests on episode 19 of Dialogue Tree, where we talked about our experiences of Hollow Knight Silksong. Margot has continued to post on her lovely newsletter, Margot Plays, and has published reviews on games like Toem, Animal Well, and Pokemon Legends ZA, as well as longer, more personal reflections, such as blog entries on the struggles of dealing with a gaming backlog. Next up, we're going to hear from Rupert Cole. Rupert is a composer for TV, film and video games who I genuinely think will one day be a household name. His range is unreal. Chiptune, hip-hop, wave, choral, orchestral, melodic, dissonant, beautiful, bouncy, wacky and weird. It's all there. From my point of view, he's had an excellent 2025. Listen to this. Since we spoke on episode 18 of Dialogue Tree about his lovely little soundtrack to the lovely little puzzle game that is This Seat Taken, he has soundtracked More Than a Parent, a film commissioned by the University of Birmingham about the life, struggles and importance of carers, composed a soundtrack for Jealous People or Ugly People, an absurdist supernatural thriller set to be broadcast on the BBC in early 2026, seen another film he soundtracked, psychological short horror Daniel's Room, win 2 awards at the Short is Beautiful Film Festival, seen Is This Seat Taken be the iOS App Store Game of the Day, and be longlisted in Debut Game and Family Game at the BAFTA Game Awards. In early December, he had his soundtrack to the Playdate game Resonant Tale performed in concert by the Birmingham Philharmonic Orchestra, and finally, just a few days ago at the time of writing, had a film he soundtracked, No Worries If Not, win Best Short Film at the Royal Television Society Awards. That is a good CV. And if you were to watch the films and listen to the music listed there, you've got an excellent holiday season ahead of you. So, a tip of the hat to Rupert for his achievements this year. Let's hear from him now.
Hello, happy Christmas. My name's Rupert Cole. I'm the soundtrack composer for Otto's Galactic Groove, which is what I was on the episode for previously. I've scored a lot of video games and films and all sorts. And yeah, this is my favourite gaming Christmas memory. Mine's a bit of a sappy one for my family, because Christmas time is all about family time. And mine is actually about my mum. So she is not much of a gamer. She isn't even the person that introduced me to video games. That was my dad. But I can't remember when it was. It was a few years ago. It must have been about 2018 or so. And we were all cozied up by the fireplace. I was back home for the holidays season with my Nintendo Switch in my bag, and I introduced my family to the wonders of Jackbox games for the very first time. And there was a particular game called Drawful, which I'm sure a lot of listeners will be familiar with, that is, I mean, it's almost a digital version of Pictionary with a little bit more silliness added in, much to its benefit. And yeah, so we discovered this game, Drawful, and we gave it a good go, and it was absolutely hilarious for my family. We I would say we don't have the most sophisticated sense of humour between us, but we know how to have fun together. And yeah, we were just playing that game into the wee hours, and it was my mum, of all people, who was the person advocating one more game, one more round, because we were just cracking up so much. And to be honest, I'd never played video games with her before. We'd done board games and card games and things, but video games obviously something special. It was kind of my first time to be able to share that with her and to see her getting as much fun out of them as I did. And yeah, we still play it most Christmases to this day. It got to a point where we had to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mum, we can't do another round of Drawful. We're all sick of it," because she was so hooked on it. Which I know kind of that's the post-credit scene, perhaps, of the anecdote. But yeah, a very special memory nonetheless. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be cracking it out again this Christmas. And if there's anyone out there who's looking for a game to be a great equaliser, because you don't have to be a good artist. In fact, probably being a good artist makes it more difficult. Being a bad artist makes it even more hilarious. But yeah, definitely check that one out. Jackbox Games Drawful. A strong recommendation for a brilliant opportunity to have a laugh over Christmas with your family.
I am still walking. I parked way too far away today. I'd like to say the ground is covered in fresh, unbroken snow, but in reality it's a damp and stucco-covered pavement, with a few of those loose slabs that, if you step on them, heave a pint of rainwater over your trainers. Let's have another postcard.
Hi Dialogue Tree, thanks for having me back. It's Lucy from Kimoka Games.
Lucy Blundell is the developer of One Night Stand and Videoverse. We talked on episode 30 of Dialogue Tree about that latter game, and in the time since, its Japanese localization has received an excellent 32 out of 40 from highly regarded publication Famitsu. Lucy also made her second wonderful appearance on the Back Page podcast, all about the best emotional moments in video games. Her list is typically great, so I recommend you go listen or read her interview with Indy Tushin all about the game. She has also formally said goodbye to Videoverse. Her games were two of my highlights of 2025, as they both do things with the visual novel formula that are innovative and touching, and truly reinvigorated my interest in the genre. I can't wait to see what she comes up with in 2026. For now, let's hear her favourite gaming Christmas memory.
My favourite Christmas memory, so I kind of have two, I hope that's okay. They both involve receiving the gift of a video game console. I had the Mega Drive and a few years later the Nintendo 64. So the Mega Drive was my first console that was my own. My brother had an Amiga, which I did play a lot, but the Mega Drive was solely mine, which meant I got to choose the games for it. All my friends had one at this point, so I was really happy to finally play with them and swap games. Video games have always been a strong source of connection for me. But this was also the year that I was horse crazy and asked for a ton of horse riding and grooming equipment, which I think my parents had already bought because, you know, when I said I wanted the Mega Drive, they were like, it's a little bit too late. But my dad went out of his way and found one second hand, and he got a pretty good deal on a Mega Drive 1. And they got me a copy of Jurassic Park The Lost World, which I played to death. But I was made up. And then a few years later, my friends had now moved on to Nintendo 64, and the Fantastic Colours had just been released, and I really, really wanted one. My parents said I could have one on the condition that I make a trade with my Mega Drive. This is a decision that I still regret to this day. I haven't given up any of my consoles since then because I regretted it so much. But they got me a brand new great purple Nintendo 64 with GoldenEye, and it was so cool. But I actually think my favourite part of this Christmas was having some Christmas money and going straight to the shops on Boxing Day to buy a copy of Super Mario 64 because that was the game that I really wanted. But unfortunately, I didn't have enough money for the original copy. However, I managed to find the Player's Choice version, which was half price, so I was made up. And I played both of these games so much over the holidays, and they gave me so much joy. These are memories that I still think back so fondly of. They bring a smile to my face and a warmth to my heart, and I cherish them greatly.
My thanks once more to Lucy. I'm at the car now. Let's go for a drive. From a recent guest to my first guest, and possibly the best first person to have ever interviewed, as he basically taught me how to do that in real time. This is Dom from Video Dojo.
Hi, my name's Dom. I was invited onto Dialogue Tree back in July of this year to talk about Game Builder Garage, perhaps Nintendo's most overlooked first-party game on Switch, and also one of my all-time favourites.
Dom is the founder of Video Dojo. At first, this was a YouTube channel dedicated to his streaming, becoming a vehicle for short films and documentaries about ephemera from around the fringes of gaming, before evolving into the hub of the community around Game Builder Garage, Nintendo's game creation software from 2021. At this point, Dom has hosted countless Game Builder Garage game jams, community streams, and has been instrumental in the creation of tools that support that game and the people involved with it. In 2025, they put out their first Game Builder Garage Direct, showcasing a variety of upcoming, amazingly ambitious projects, all made in Game Builder Garage. Video Dojo has also expanded into a team and into development. They are currently making a town-building sandbox game called Townbox. They took their game to DevCon and have just recently started releasing music from it on their YouTube channel. The game looks like a lovely playground, and the music is a suitably playful accompaniment. Check it out whilst you listen to Dom.
To be completely honest, a wave of panic hit me when I saw Andrew's email inviting me to share a Christmas gaming memory for the podcast. But I hate Christmas, I said to myself as I scanned through the message. Don't get me wrong, I don't actually hate Christmas, not in a grinchy way at least. Having a concrete, unmovable, yearly excuse to get together with family, eat lots of food, and share gifts is important. But as someone who has struggled with seasonal depression my entire life, to varying degrees of severity, it's hard for me to not see the first spin of Wonderful Christmas Time at the local shopping centre in October as a sort of grim outrider, a harbinger of coming darkness, and I'm only half joking. As I continued reading the email, I was racking my brain for something worth sharing. As the sun began to set, it was only 3 p.m, something came to mind. Animal Crossing Wild World was a late birthday present from my mum. It came out a couple of weeks after my birthday in March 2006, and I'd been counting down the days until release. I'd not long started at secondary school, and I'd not found the transition easy. Bigger school, bigger kids, and bigger responsibilities. I played Wild World sporadically through the summer and enjoyed it, bringing the DS with me on family holidays and on school trips. At that age, though, when the weather was good, I was mostly playing outside, and it wasn't until autumn arrived, the nights drew in, and my world got smaller, that Wild World became a staple part of my routine. Before bed, I'd grab my DS and play 30 minutes or so every night, my face illuminated by the DS's twin displays like a tiny little dual-screen sad lamp. Like most players, I spent the majority of my time collecting shells, shaking fruit trees, and telling Cooper that yes, every single item in the Lost and Found was actually mine. But I was mostly obsessed with making patterns. I'd meticulously recreate designs from real items of clothing and use them in-game. I remember I had a knitted woolly hat, the kind with the flappy ears, and after a bit of pixel art finessing, so did my avatar, albeit in conical form. Sometimes I'd stay up late, later than my bedtime, after Abel's sisters had closed for the night, using the telescope upstairs in the museum to carefully recreate, in-game, the loose arrangements of glow-in-the-dark stars I had on my bedroom ceiling at the time, as grand constellations in the night sky above my village. One day in mid-December, there was a notice on the town bulletin board saying a big snowstorm was due. Sure enough, the next day, a thick blanket of white covered everything. The usual hourly themes were augmented with sleigh bells now. The world was quiet, peaceful, and lonely. My Christmas memory with Wild World is not a single definable moment, but rather how well it captured this feeling. Wild World is wistful and introspective, even in the comments from villagers. I was often caught off guard by how melancholy they sound. A line of dialogue from Mabel, one of the hedgehog seamstresses, captures this perfectly. She says, "It's just, my sister said something to me the other day that weirded me out. You're lucky you're still young," she said. I mean, part of me is like, sure, whatever. I seem like a kid to my sis, but there's something about her saying such a thing that, well, it worries me. What business does a game like Animal Crossing have with a line like that? I'm glad it does. Funnily enough, Wild World is one of the only games out of the entire mainline series that doesn't feature a surrogate for Christmas. Make of that what you will. I eventually moved on from Wild World. Animal Crossing City Folk came out next. It's actually called Let's Go to the City here in the UK. But I didn't stick with it for very long. Later games gave more power to the player, but to a kid, Wild World felt bigger than me. It was a world I was a part of, not in charge of. It gave me more autonomy than I felt in the real world, certainly, the one run by adults, but it didn't make me the center of its universe. After Andrew's email, I dug out my old DS and popped in Wild World. My town was still there. I called it Petit Pois. It still felt the way that I remembered it. Most of my villagers had moved on, but there was familiar faces there still. Mabel and Sable were there, graciously holding stock of my outdated patterns. A black cat villager, one of my favourites, and Tom Nook, selling a ginormous and very expensive Christmas tree. All that is to say, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Thanks again to Dom, and to any publishers listening. You know what to do. Back to episode 19, and another of the 3 guests that we heard from on that show. What a ridiculous idea. Must do it again sometime. This is John.
Hi there, my name's John Blackshaw. I'm a graphic designer and lifelong gamer. Can usually be found dying endlessly inside one of Miyazaki's From Software nightmare worlds, but also a big indie game fan, currently playing Signs of the Sojourner.
John is an annoyingly humble graphic designer whose kind words off mic inspired me to bang my bruised head against the unyielding walls of Hard Night Silksong. And I'm glad he did. And I'm glad I did. At present, he's way ahead of me on the climb up that particular mountain, but I'm hoping to catch him up at some point and share some war stories about the journey. Let's hear from him now.
My fondest Christmas gaming-related memory would be from 1992, where I'd have been 10 years old. Growing up, Christmas is all about tacky Christmas decorations, you know, lots of colour and tinsel, tin of Quality Street on the coffee table. My nan and granddad would always come over and fall fast asleep not long after eating lunch and wake up just as the Christmas special of Only Fools and Horses appeared on the TV. But for me, it's always been video games. They've played a huge part of my life. They still do today around Christmas time. Not sure what I'll be playing this year, but last year was A Short Hike. I remember playing that on Christmas Eve. And rewinding back to 1992, I know I owned a ZX Spectrum at the time, which was starting to gather dust. It was all about the NES. I had a small collection of games. DuckTales was one of my favourites. And I put in a few requests, only expecting to get one game that year. And my parents always did this great thing, which is a great parenting life hack, by the way. Would always put one present at the foot of my bed, usually a film or a game, so that when I woke up, I would open it, run through to the lounge, play it, watch it, and they would have a long lie-in on Christmas morning, save getting up at 5 a.m. And that year it was Super Mario Brothers 2, the game that I'd already played to death around a friend's house, but I had to have my own copy. I absolutely loved the game. So I spent most of the morning playing that. Didn't even open my other presents for a long time. It wasn't until my grandparents turned up later that day and handed me a few other presents that, to my surprise, there was a copy of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, the one with the gold cartridge. And as far as I was concerned, this was the best Christmas ever. I was so excited to have 2 games. It was. It sounds ridiculous now because as an adult, I can just, there's a Steam sale. You're buying like 10 games at a time, like it's nothing. But back then, this was huge for me. But my dad had another surprise up his sleeve, which I was really not expecting. This was the one that makes Christmas stand out for me. We'd sat down to eat Christmas lunch, and in our kitchen we used to have it's one of those big chunky thermostats that really sticks out. It's a bit of an eyesore, but that day, just as I sat down to eat my dinner, I remember asking my dad about this later in life, and apparently it was just a bit of fun for him. He was like, not a prank, but he just wanted to see how long it would take me to notice, basically. So on top of the thermostat, it wasn't wrapped, but there was a copy of Mega Man 2. And I just remember my mum and dad bursting out laughing at how quickly I'd spotted this game. I think they thought that it would be an ongoing joke for the rest of the day, that there was another game sat there looking down at me and I had not noticed it. But yeah, I don't think I'd even started to eat my dinner. I probably didn't eat it for quite a while. I must have just picked up the game and ran into the lounge. I can't really remember. It's a bit of a blur after that. Probably excitement overload. But yeah, that's definitely my fondest gaming memory from Christmas.
Next up, the final guest from episode 19. My friend and yours, Sean.
So, my favourite Christmas gaming memory is of the Christmas morning I opened my presents to find not one but 2 era-defining titles under the tree. So both alike in dignity but totally different in style and content. One was a much anticipated but greatly delayed RPG that is today recognised as a common ancestor of everything from Assassin's Creed to Elden Ring. And the second was a game adaptation of a film released 2 years earlier. And it was expected to be a forgettable cash-in, but was swiftly recognised as one of the best first-person shooters of its time that helped propel its developer to a reputation as one of the best software offices that the UK has to offer. I am, of course, talking about Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time and GoldenEye 007. Now, of the 2 that I played first, I think I remember the sheer excitement at finally having Zelda in my hands after so long winning over. Think the wait for Silksong, but only you're 11 years old. And I spent the hours before being dragged off to Mass exploring the Kokiri village and meeting the Great Deku Tree. And after getting back from church, the memories of my first grapples with GoldenEye are slightly less clear, because I realise now that this memory is completely false. Now, the historians among you will have realised that GoldenEye was released in mid-1997, while Zelda was released less than a week before Christmas in 1998 in the UK. So thanks for braving the shops at that time of year, Mum. And I was definitely getting my arse handed to me on 4-player GoldenEye before Zelda came around. So what was that second game I opened up under the tree in Christmas 1998? Well, the most likely candidate was probably Turok 2. It was first person, and likely equally anticipated by me due to the previews highlighting the presence of a weapon called the Cerebral Boar, or some such. And As for what happened in 1997, it's very possible my RPG fix was fulfilled by none other than Diddy Kong Racing, also developed by Rare in a kart game that was weirdly heavy on its open world aspects. But in any case, my 64-bit Christmases from 1997 to 2000 all blur into one, with games like Jet Force Gemini, Smash Brothers and Majora's Mask all finding their way under the tree and into my stocking before the Dreamcast usurped the N64 under my telly. So false memories or not, here's to low poly, high excitement Christmases of the turn of the millennium. Merry Christmas, Nintendo.
Thanks, Sean. Don't give up on Celeste. We're nearly home now, so let's hear from the guest of episode 31, the developer of the best brain-breaking, hand-twisting, colour-switching, controller-throwing, rage-quitting, but just keep on going platformer of 2025, Monochrome Heights. This is Patrick of One Frog Games.
When I reflect on my favourite Christmas or holiday gaming memory, I think first of a lot of childhood Christmases where I got games or gaming devices. In particular, there was a Christmas when I was pretty young, I think it was the late 1980s, when my family got a computer, and that was like the big gift for the whole family, for me and my brothers. And that was big because I started playing a lot of computer games. There was also the Christmas where I got, or the family got, a Super Nintendo. That was also big. It was something I shared with my brothers as well, but it kind of became an obsession for me. But honestly, when I think about my favorite Christmas gaming memory, it might be 2016. That was the year the Nintendo Switch came out. And after seeing a friend play their Nintendo Switch in person in handheld, I realized, man, this is awesome and I want one of these. And it was hard to find them that year, but sometime in the fall I was able to get my hands on one, and I spent a lot of my money on just getting the console, and I wasn't able to really buy any games. And it was kind of getting close to Christmas time, and at that time I still exchanged gifts with a lot of family members that I've since stopped exchanging gifts with, in it for good, just as a positive, like we're all adults, we don't need to buy each other gifts. But at that time it was very awesome because I asked for a lot of games for the Switch that was just kind of sitting there in my closet. And at Christmas I got a copy of ARMS, Splatoon 2, Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I think I also used a gift card shortly after Christmas Day to get Mario plus Rabbids. And I think also I got like a screen protector and some other Switch accessories like a case and stuff like that for Christmas. And so it was really like a gaming Nintendo Christmas for me. And I had kind of written off handheld gaming as for kids, or I just didn't really think about it much, to be honest with you. But I really discovered at that time, because I had a young child and just, I don't know, all these opportunities to play games in handheld at doctor's appointments and waiting rooms and other things. And I have a lot of memories of around that time playing those 5 or 6 games right after Christmas and rediscovering a lot of franchises I loved because I had been playing mostly Xbox as an adult. And honestly, there's a trajectory from that Christmas to me being here recording this, because it sent me deeper into video games. And so the Christmas of 2016, when I got all the Nintendo Switch games and gear I could ever want. I mean, those 5 games sustained me for so long. Such a great launch year lineup for that. So that's my favorite Christmas gaming memory.
Next up, the most recent guest of Dialogue Tree. The guy who soundtracked my year. The guy whose music made my game of the year. If you listened to the last episode of Dialogue Tree, you know my thoughts on this guy and his music. So I'll leave it there. But we couldn't do a Christmas episode of this show without the self-proclaimed Big Christmas Dude. This is Alpha Chrome Yayo.
Hey, I'm Alpha Chrome Yayo, and I make vibey music for cool games. And I'm also a big old Christmas fan. And I've got plenty of festive memories that are intrinsically linked to games. From getting my first console as a little guy to Mario Kart madness on the sofa to this day. A favourite memory that always sticks in my mind though, one year I got a DDR dance mat peripheral for the PS2. I've always been a big fan of the series, but what I didn't expect was to catch my dad having a sneaky go on it when he didn't think anybody was looking. It seems like a small thing, but this is a dude whose gaming extends about as far as racing me on various console titles, and in fairness, often beating me. So, to me, seeing him bouncing up and down in this thing was, yes, kind of funny, but more than that, exceptionally sweet, and really indicative of the pure joy and curiosity that both video games and Christmas can deliver. So to everyone listening to this, Happy Christmas. I hope you can find your joy this year in games and beyond.
Hey y'all, it's Zach, composer on Mind Over Magnet and Wordplay. Winter is my favorite season. I get really into the cold and the food and the long hours of darkness. Games are also a big part of hanging out with friends and family, especially during the holidays. I've got a large extended family from all over. We always played games together at family gatherings when I was growing up. It was a good way for us to catch up. The adults played a lot of card games like Pit, Euchre, Skippo, and Spades. But some of my favorite memories are of my cousins and I holding tournaments of Mario Kart Double Dash into the early hours of the morning. I think it's the best Mario Kart in the series. The mix of straight competitive and co-op play was perfect for keeping us playing all night. These days we don't play console games as much during the holidays. We've all pretty much grown up to the adults' card game table. But we do like playing the app version of the game Wavelength. That's a good one to play casually after eating a big holiday meal. Even the grandparents enjoy that one. Happy holidays.
That was the voice of Zach Jones, composer for the games Mind Over Magnet and Wordplay. Since we spoke on that episode, Zach has continued working on the game that we touched on briefly in our chat, this mad-looking tactics game called Deep Mess. However, when we caught up for this episode, he let me know about something else he's been working on. He has recently wrapped up on what he described as a Jane Austen-themed trick-taking card game called Satisfaction. That sounds weird, and great, and will be releasing late spring in 2026. I'll be looking out for that, so for now, thanks to Zach. We're home now. The memory that I spoke about earlier was my earliest gaming memory. I've been thinking about my favourite on the way home. I remembered it. It's this one.
My favourite gaming Christmas memory was when I got my Nintendo Switch for the first time and I played Animal Crossing on it and I was really happy about it.
How did you feel when you opened it?
Very happy, and you were leaving the room, so I shouted your name, and then you came rushing into the room and you were like, "Yeah, you got it!"
Were you surprised?
Yes.
Yeah. So you've played a bit of Animal Crossing now. What are your three favourite things about Animal Crossing?
You can customise your island however you want it. You can talk to animals, and you can change yourself to make it look good, and you can do Work Island and Harvey Island, and you can customise your place.
There's a lot, isn't there? You excited about the update that's coming out?
Yeah.
What are you most excited for that?
The hotel.
Yeah? Wow, why the hotel?
Because I can make hotel rooms for villagers, and it will just be really fun to do all of the updates.
Do you think I've been working on this for a bit too long now? Should we go and play something?
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. And my thanks once more to everyone who contributed to this episode, and everyone who has contributed to the show this year. Your voices have made it, whatever it is. These postcards and memories have been positive, nostalgic, happy ones. We, first world Westerners with access to a hobby inaccessible to many, are very lucky to have such memories. The holiday season is good for many reasons beyond, food and presents, but we should acknowledge that it's not a good time for everyone, and that if there are people around us who need help, that we should reach out and give that help. Links to everyone you have heard in this episode are in the show notes. I implore you, please, check out their awesome work. And speaking of awesome work, the artwork for Dialogue Tree was designed by Pixel Benny, and you can find the show online at dialoguetree.cc. This is the last episode of the show for 2025. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, happy holidays. Talk to you next year.